Herodes, Herodes, Horatio, Hercules, Hortus, Herman, and Corindus. But his real name is Herodes Guzman. And the name of his story is The Mango.
Hi everyone, those are truly names that people have called me before. So today I wanted to share a story with you that kind of spans across my youth and kind of goes along with the themes of growing pains. So just imagine with me, I'm looking straight at this bundle, this batch of beautiful looking mangoes in this small kitchen, and I'm all alone, just kind of staring longingly at it. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna walk over, I'm gonna pick myself up one, and I pick up this mango, and it looks great. It's ready to eat, and so I peel it, one by one, expose the deliciousness. I know this sounds weird, keep but I want you guys kind of to trust me here. Close your eyes, because I close your eyes, and imagine as you bite into that mango, explosions of beautiful mango flavor titillate your taste buds, and then you open your eyes. So you guys can open your eyes, and lo and behold, there are a bunch of maggots of that mango. Oh my God! I dropped that mango and I ran out the room, never to see that mango again. Now, look, I was 8 years old. This was my first time in Mexico. I didn't know what I was gonna expect, and I was there with my dad, and we were there to go see our family. So half of our family is still over in Mexico, and we went over to his sister's place, and what I saw kind of took me aback. It looked more of like a prison than a home. It was all gray cinder block walls. The floor beneath me was all dirt. There's no tile, there's no floor. The windows that were around the walls were more of like open holes. There was no running water. There was no air conditioning, none of those amenities or luxuries we have over here. And so that was one of many encounters that I've had with Mexico. And with these trips to Mexico, I've had both good and bad experiences. And I think two instances, one with my aunt, another aunt, and one with my uncle, really exemplify what it was like to really get to know my Mexican identity. So it was a really, really sunny afternoon, and I was around 12 years old at this point. I was with my aunt who specialized in history. Her whole employment was based on archiving the small details of our parents' hometown, Agatlan de Osorio. And she was super passionate about this work. And so she was more than delighted to walk us along the pyramids of the sun and the moon near Mexico City and just educate us on the Aztec culture and the Aztec history that once stood here. And I was a nerdy, chubby, sweaty little kid walking right along with her, listening intently. And I see her beaming eyes and her animated voice, her rosy cheek. She's smiling from eye to eye, from ear to ear, whatever the phrase is. And you could just tell that this is what she lived for, and that she truly felt a connection with us. Even though I had not met her until I was around 8 years old, she felt a connection as family through that type of story. And for me, that was probably the first time I was really starting to identify as a Mexican, and specifically a Mexican American. Another night, it was dark. I think it was a little past sunset. I was riding along in my parents' old 1986 Suburban. It was black. And we were driving along a gravel road, and this experience was distinctly different. So I was confused. I didn't know what we were going to do, but we were visiting one of my dad's distant uncle or brother or some sort. I wasn't sure. I was probably 12 or 13 years old. And what I saw there was a home that was kind of made up of wooden sticks kind of tied together with a tarp as a makeshift roof. And again, the floor underneath me was dirt, and my uncle's bed was more wooden sticks with a blanket as the cushion. And again, no air conditioning, no water. But what really caught my eye was when we first got there, when we first parked the car. At first I didn't realize what it was, but there was a big tree next to the house, and there was a figure I couldn't really make out at the time, but there was a lot of rustling. And then eventually I realized that it was a young man. The young man was tied to the tree. He was tethered down, and he was barely wearing any clothing. He was very disheveled, and the noises he was making were not discernible English or Spanish. I couldn't tell what he was saying. And you know, given the conversation that occurred between my parents and this uncle, I could kind of make out that the reason he was tied down was because his mental health had deteriorated, and there weren't any resources to provide him or to help him. So this was kind of the solution we were left with. And until that day, my parents and I never spoke about it. So I left confused. And up until that point, I tended to separate my experiences with Mexico as good and bad. And I tended to hold on to the good memories, to identify with those good memories that really built up my Mexican culture, and then try to let go of the bad memories that kind of confused me and kind of split me and conflicted me with who I am and where I was from. And so fast forward a couple of years, I'm now in medical school, I'm feeling all macho and like, look at me, I got here, I'm first generation person, man, and I feel like I'm top of the world, I'm learning all this new information. And like my family and I regularly do, we go to Mexico every few years to visit our family, because up until this day, there's still more than half of them that are over there. This time around, we went under the context of my aunt's mental health not doing well. So this same aunt that was a historian that really showed me a lot about who I was, unbeknownst to me, had started to have auditory hallucinations. And so she was hearing voices telling her that she was going to die and that someone was going to kill her. And so she was in great distress to the point where she lost her job as a historian of the town, and she was at my grandmother's place, kind of living off of the resources they could provide. Up to that point, there were instances of where she attempted to jump out of a moving car, she attempted to drink rubbing alcohol, and had tried other attempts to die by suicide, but fortunately had not yet occurred. And so for me, hearing those details from my mother, who had talked to our family, it was shocking. I couldn't imagine it, but I quickly got to see what it was like when we met her in Mexico City. So one of our uncles lives there, and so we kind of came together with my aunt to see if we couldn't, liven her up, see if we couldn't support her in some way, because she hadn't seen my mom for a while, and she'd been really closed off from the world ever since she started hearing these voices. And what I saw was not her. Her eyes were glassy, her smile was gone, she was very quiet. She looked very tired, like she had been wrestling with her thoughts for a long time. And so we tried our best. We went to different tourist attractions in Mexico City, but that passion and that animation wasn't there anymore. She just kind of stood off in the corner, almost like hunched over, like a husk of her own self. And it was the worst came at night. Those were the times when she feared that she would hear those voices, and so she'd often sleep in the living room or sleep with someone else to try to avoid those encounters. And near the end of that particular trip, there was one night when we were back in my parents' hometown, Agatlan, and she started to have those hallucinations, and so she was starting to scream, and she was starting to yell, like, I can't breathe, I'm choking, someone's trying to kill me. And we were kind of sitting off to the corner in the kitchen, and me, this med student, like, what do I do? Nothing. I'm just sitting there, like, what do? I don't know. And my mom goes and tries to comfort her, and other family members try to comfort her, to no avail. And at one point, my family here and over in Mexico had been dealing with this for a couple of months and had done a lot to try and support her. But unfortunately, sometimes you just break, I'm assuming. But one of our uncles kind of yelled out at her and said, "Why don't you just die?" And then my mind was just full of emotions. Like, what? This is our family. This is not supposed to happen. This is not what I was expecting. And so I gathered myself together, and this time, unlike the time I saw that young man chained to the tree, this time I spoke up. I angrily spoke with my parents. I'm like, what is going on? I know this isn't anyone's fault, but what can we do? How can we help her be who she once was? And nothing else came from that night, but I fell asleep thinking, well, at least I spoke up. And so when I think back to the mango, what I tend to focus on was the time I dropped that and ran away. But now I realize that I can't let go. Thank you.